Hey, what's up, guys? I am Brian. This is Tech Therapy. I spent the weekend with one of the most affordable TVs on the market at 65 inches, the TCL 4 Series. Stay tuned to find out how the weekend went.
I've seen things you people wouldn't believe.
Thank you so much for joining me today. Again, I am Brian. This is Tech Therapy. Funny story, I was actually at my sister-in-law's in Philadelphia this weekend and noticed that in her new apartment, she had a new TV, and looked at it and immediately said, "Oh, you have a new TV. What did you end up getting?" And was kind of testing her to see if she actually checked out the channel, which she subscribed to, what her research was, anything of that nature. And she basically said, I went to Best Buy and asked them for the cheapest possible TV at 65 inches. And she ended up with the TCL 4 Series at 65 inches. And I'll put the prices up. They range from $43, $50, $55, $65, $75, 85 inches. It is a direct lit LED. It is one of the most affordable panels on the market in all of Best Buy, and I was able to spend the entire weekend with it, but thought it was very funny that her research was basically walking in with a size and saying, give me the most affordable display that you have, and she ends up with this TV. And I realized that many people do their research that way. They choose the size, they choose the price, and they go with it. So this video will be me breaking down the TCL 4 Series, its picture quality, its use case, what I thought of it, and spending a weekend with it organically, meaning it wasn't lent to me, it wasn't sent to me, I didn't buy one. It was just enjoying it in her home, watching all sorts of content, how it performed in a bright room, in a dark room, and actually living with it for a little bit more than a weekend was a fascinating way to test the TV that was someone else's. And being that it was the most affordable, always keeping that in the back of my mind and how it performed. And I want to share that with you guys, as many of you are looking for the most affordable TV before Black Friday for performance, size, and value. All right, guys, here we are in my sister-in-law's apartment. It is very bright. We are looking at the design of the panel. Very simplistic, but very unassuming as well. As we look at the back, it doesn't really stand out, but doesn't look like a cheap TV. I do like the design. Again, simplistic, wide foot stance, cannot move them in, up or down. You will need a larger table. I like that TCL's name is shrinking. I don't love the name on the panel. Again, the bezels aren't huge, not a super thin TV, but not really thick either. Looks good in the room, does not look, as I mentioned, very low end. Here's the back side, which is black. You can disable the plug. Go to the other side, you have 4 HDMI's, 2.0s. Her cable is connected via the cable, which is funny there. You have your optical, you have headphones back there. Very, very basic. Though there is a game mode, you are not going to find the gaming features on this panel. It is 60 hertz. It does have 120 hertz motion processing that's built in. Here is the remote. If you like this remote, very simplistic, pretty easy to use, though I do not love the Roku. Backing out, sometimes you back entirely out of things. Other times it can bring you to the next page. Other times it keeps you in the same settings. It's different per setting. Don't like that. I would still rock a Fire Stick. Not a big fan of TCL's operating system. To me, it's slow, it's clunky, and but here it is. Here's how it looks in her room. Very bright room at this point. The TV does well in a bright room. I will show you its reflections and things of that nature later in the video, as well as their audio. Now you can see here, while we are in SDR, there are more picture settings and more presets to go through. That changes a lot once you go into HDR. There is no Dolby Vision here. Here's the fine-tune setting. No Dolby Vision, basic HDR 10. No quantum dot display either. Did not see any reviews on this TV, just doing an organic review after spending a weekend with it, and did the review after. So you'll see a shaky cam Blair Witch Cloverfield style video because I did not have a tripod with me. The glare there is a little stronger. As the lights go down, it looks much better. As a semi-gloss kind of panel, bit of a matte, kind of in between. Handles reflections okay depending on what's on screen. Otherwise, it's pretty colorful. It's got some pop. Not crazy bright, but I wouldn't say that it's dim either. Right in the middle. And pretty much through this review, guys, you're going to hear a lot of that in the middle, but always keep in mind, for the money. 43 inches to 85 inches, the prices are amazing. And to have them only be $100 apart at certain sizes makes all the difference. So you have a direct lit LED, not necessarily edge lit. There are LEDs behind it, but it does behave very much like an edge lit panel, meaning it does have those weaknesses, meaning the edges will glow. Putting something very vivid on just to see how colorful it looks does very well. And again, organically reviewing this panel, I watched all kinds of content on it: Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, Apple TV, cable, as well as YouTube. And I was pretty happy with it. In a dark room, plenty colorful. And as we get into the black level in a moment, as long as you are dead on, you're fine. Handles the middle of the screen fine. You'll see it here in a minute with our crab. Lights up the screen a bit. The edges do light up off angle. I'll show you that in a bit. But I was very pleased with its black level, as long as there isn't much on screen. Now, what I mean by that, it isn't a bloom box. It doesn't bloom much at all. But when you see towards the end of this demo, when you get into the city, the entire screen does wash out a bit. If you're not critically viewing it, you wouldn't notice it, but you wouldn't look at it as having very strong blacks. Contrast ratio seems okay in terms of colors, but that black level does suffer when there's a lot on screen, as you'll see at the end of this demo. But in terms of blooming, I was very pleased with it, as you'll see in some of our later demos. We'll also cover audio shortly, both HDR and SDR. So we move into the cityscape here. No real blooming, but kind of a washed out look to it. Now we move into some of the presets and some of the settings with our good friend Jennifer Gala's demo material. I love using this as it has a narrow aspect ratio, so you can see the black bars. As we bring the menu up, you don't see a lot of haloing or any problems like that. And I don't love their settings in regards to brightness and dark and darker. I know them, Vizio, tend to do that. If you do have any haloing or blooming of any kind, going to that darker preset in a dark room does help quite a bit. Just showing you how the bright picture settings change as we look at the demo material. But even sitting about 10 feet back, you don't really see any haloing on the black bars, which is excellent until you move off angle. So black bars aren't purple or really lit up when you're directly in front of it. Can't ask for much more than that, especially if you plan on buying a larger version of this panel. Maybe an issue with the smaller sizes if you get around the side of it. Picture settings are extremely basic, and again, when you go into HDR, it's an issue I have with this TV, that the presets totally go down to 3 settings instead of having all the other presets such as movie, sports, cinema, things of that nature, standard. Now you see as we go off angle here, you can see them light up quite a bit. Dead center, they disappear. So again, at this price point, we're fine with being dead center or even off angle a bit, and we're actually fine. Being above, you can see the edges do light up. Though it is direct LED, there are lights behind it. To me, it does behave very much like an edge lit panel. So again, critically viewing, getting very close. Backing up, you don't see the aperture or the ISO change on the camera. No tricks. This is how it looks in real life far away. Special thanks to Jennifer Gala and HDR Super Channel for all their amazing content. This is Jen's stuff. So is the audio. See her demo material throughout. Check her out. Subscribe to her. But again, showing you the settings with real content. Due to copyright, cannot show you movies or anything like that. So really spending time going through the settings. Again, basic HDR, no Dolby Vision, no wider color gamut. What I don't love about the Roku is when you back out, again, as I mentioned, there's times where you'll back out, it'll take you out of the settings, but stay in the page. Other ones will take you totally out of the page. Other ones will close the menu entirely. So a little inconsistent there. I am glad that you can actually go through the settings and see the changes take place. Hisense doesn't do that at their lower level. You have to actually press the button. But for the most part, very happy with it, again, for the price. And really here, again, just showing you how the TV brightness affects the image. It is a couple days before Thanksgiving. I hope you guys are all doing well. I know I have not been posting nearly as much as I normally do, trying to figure out that balance, but I promise you there'll be more to come. Thank you for always being there. I hope you guys are doing well, and I hope you're ready for an amazing Thanksgiving. But again, just going through the presets here, showing you what each one does. If this looked repetitive, it's probably because I backed out of it a few times and went back into it. You can see how when you back out, you end up completely out as we go into here. And the fine tuning, again, very basic. Changing the backlight doesn't do a whole heck of a lot. But it was cool to go in and just spend time with the TV, watch it, and then say, hey, well, I'll do a review on it. Now we're going into some SDR here. This is a very challenging demo for any display. The black level will be tested, and it does actually very well, especially in the blooming department. And it handles transitions pretty well. This scene here with the bubbles does fine. Most of the highlights you see are off angle or on the edges of the screen. We're notorious for this one here with the balls bouncing in. No haloing at all. Same here. You won't see anything until you go off angle. This is where you'll see the screen light up a bit. And off angle, it would stay at the edges. At the end of this demo, we will go into the audio. Again, that's from Jennifer Gala as well. I will shut up through that part so you can hear. Sounds decent. Speakers are okay. You may want to turn the video up when we get to that point, which starts right now. Now, I found motion to be quite good, even though there isn't any motion settings that I could find. Again, if you're familiar with TCL and you know where those settings are, I could not locate them. Again, if you're a fan of motion interpolation or the soap opera effect, that may not be available. It does have this 120 hertz built-in motion setting somewhere, but it seems to do a very good job. Didn't have any judder or stutter or anything, and no artifacting. Motion, as you can see here, is completely fine. That owl that you saw in Jennifer's material will cause issues if you have the wrong motion settings enabled. It did absolutely fine. Saturation was very good. You can make the panel look pretty natural or pretty saturated. Again, this is HDR we're looking at now. And again, very happy with it. Enjoyed watching material on it. Even shows like Game of Thrones that are very dark. You can jump out of the darker settings, and it did absolutely fine without a lot of blooming or problems. Again, for the price, it is excellent, actually, and the flexibility of size, but you are limited. It is not the poppiest or most saturated or most dynamic image, but plenty good. And again, the design is very unassuming. Doesn't look super high end, but does not look super low end either. Very unassuming, blends into the atmosphere of the apartment. Rocking more of a vivid approach here. It does look colorful enough. And again, watching it the entire weekend, I didn't feel like, hey, man, this thing's killing me. Now, when I touched before on HDR and SDR, I may not have mentioned it. This is a very hard part of the demo here. You can see where it does light up a bit at the edges. I don't love, and all TV manufacturers do this, where you are limited with HDR. You do lose some presets. With this TCL, the presets basically disappear. And you'd seen that through my showing of the settings. I didn't mention it when we were going through it. I don't love that. I don't love how I have 5 presets in SDR. Then the minute that I hit HDR, I have very few. Actually, I do touch on it right here. So here we are. You're very limited. You have 3 picture modes, dark and brightness, basically. That's all you really have. Now, as we move into SDR, which is what you're going to see here, the presets come back. And that I don't love. I know a lot of manufacturers do that. But here are all these presets that you have. There is more flexibility. Those disappear in HDR. Don't love that. I'm guessing the dynamic tone mapping or the HDR isn't that elaborate. They don't want you messing around with it too much. Now, lastly, showing you bright room performance. A lot of windows, and even windows here that you cannot close down. It did fairly well. Again, using this with the aspect ratio to show it like with a movie. Does show reflections when the blacks are there. You can see, you'll see in the next LG demo, the reflections can be pretty bad off angle. Not the worst I've ever seen. Once color does jump into the screen, it is much better. But I liked it. Don't love the operating system. Design is fine. Picture quality is pretty good again for the price. I was very happy with it. I think it's an excellent choice. Not any real gaming features. There is a game mode which will be enabled if you put a game system to it. But otherwise, again, very basic settings, a very basic TV. Very, very affordable, especially if you want a very large size. It's only 60 hertz, but the motion is fine. For an apartment, for your use case being very average movies, streaming, very basic, TCL, excellent choice. For the money, cannot compete with anything in the next tier up in terms of its feature set. But for what it is, I was pretty happy and wasn't grumpy watching it. I was actually pretty happy with it. And why I mentioned value is in the back of my mind. I always think, well, this thing only cost this. And again, doesn't look low end in terms of body style. Reflections aren't terrible. Sound is okay. I should have mentioned the sound after the demo finished. It's fine. No real bass or anything. Totally fine. I was happy with it. So thank you guys for watching. Check it out. Let me know what you think. Love you guys. Happy Thanksgiving. Take care.